Last month, an absolute record-breaking number of home sales were suddenly canceled. We're talking about deals that were already signed, sealed, and seemingly delivered. Now, while the headlines are quick to point the finger at interest rates, that's not even close to the full story. The truth is, there are three major factors pushing buyers to walk away from their dream homes, and the third one is a crisis almost no one is talking about. So what is really going on, and what does it signal for the future of real estate? This isn't just a tiny market blip. In August, a staggering 15.1% of all contracts fell apart. That's the highest rate for any August on record. To put that in perspective, we're talking about nearly 1 in every 6 or 7 deals collapsing. That translates to about 56,000 pending sales that just vanished into thin air in August alone. In a typical healthy market, only about 3 to 5% of deals fail to close. The numbers we're seeing now are a massive red flag, signaling a deep and profound shift in the housing market. So why is this happening with such alarming frequency? It's not just one thing, but a perfect storm of pressure hitting buyers from every possible angle. Our first clue, and the biggest reason deals are dying, is what I'm calling the inspection standoff. When Redfin polled its agents, the answer was overwhelming. It wasn't financing or buyer's remorse. It was home inspection. A whopping 70% of agents said inspections or repair issues were the #1 cause for a deal to be canceled. This is the new battleground where the future of housing market is being defined. So why are home inspections, a standard part of buying a house for decades, suddenly becoming such an epic deal killer? It all comes down to a clash of expectations. On one side, you've got sellers who are mentally stuck in the 2021 housing frenzy. They remember a time when they could list a home as is and spark a bidding war, and watch buyers waive every contingency just to have a chance. In that market, buyers were so desperate they'd agree to almost anything. Many sellers still believe their home is a golden ticket and they don't need to negotiate or make any repairs, thinking if one buyer walks, another one is right around the corner. But on the other side of the coin, you have a completely different buyer. Today's buyers are staring down stubbornly high home prices and mortgage rates that make affordability a daily struggle. They're skittish, they're selective, and because housing inventory has been slowly creeping up, they're armed with newfound power. There are more homes to choose from, which means they are no longer forced to settle for a flawed property. Think about it from their shoes. A buyer stretches their budget to its absolute limit. The monthly payment is already going to be tight. Then, an inspection report comes back revealing a 15-year-old roof, an aging HVAC system, and some funky plumbing in the basement. A few years ago, a buyer might have just accepted those future costs. But today, they can't. They don't have the extra $20,000 or $30,000 for immediate repairs. So, they ask the seller for a credit. The seller, stuck in their 2021 mindset, says no. And just like that, the deal is dead. The buyer walks, not because they want to, but because they have to. This is happening even more at the lower end of the market. Because home ownership has gotten so expensive, more buyers are looking at lower priced homes. But these are the properties most likely to have inspection issues, creating a trap for budget-conscious buyers who are most sensitive to surprise expenses. This standoff is a direct result of a market in transition. Buyers have leverage again, and sellers who don't recognize this new reality are finding themselves putting their homes back on the market again and again. The second major reason deals are imploding is what I call the financing trap. According to that same Redfin survey, financing problems are the second leading cause of cancellations, with nearly 28% of agents pointing to it as the reason a deal died. This isn't just about buyers not getting approved for a loan. It's a much trickier situation where the financial ground can shift under their feet even after they have a signed contract. The biggest culprit here is mortgage rate volatility. Picture this, because it's happening all over the country. A hopeful buyer gets pre-approved for a mortgage in July when rates are, say, 6.6%. They find a home, their offer gets accepted, and they are thrilled. The closing date is set for 60 days later, but in that time, the economic winds shift. By the time they go to lock their final rate in September, it's jumped to nearly 7%. On a $400,000 loan, that small jump adds hundreds of dollars to their payment every single month and for the next 30 years. A mortgage that was already a stretch is now completely unaffordable. This is called payment shock, and it's causing buyers who were qualified just weeks earlier to suddenly fail final underwriting. Their debt-to-income ratio is now too high, and the lender has to deny the loan. The deal is dead, the buyer is out their dream home, and they often lose the money they spent on appraisal and inspection. On top of the rate swings, lending standards are getting tighter. Banks are getting nervous. They see the economic uncertainty, concerns about inflation, and the job market. In response, They're becoming more risk averse, scrutinizing loan applications more intensely and requiring higher credit scores. Then you have acute shocks to the system. A federal government shutdown, for instance, can cause massive disruptions by delaying government-backed loans like FHA, VA, and USDA loans. It can also stop the issuance of flood insurance, which is required in many parts of the country. Without it, a lender won't fund the loan. All these factors can create a treacherous landscape where the rules can change mid-game, leaving even well-prepared buyers unable to get to the closing table. Now we get to our third clue, the factor that headlines almost always miss, but one that is quietly killing a shocking number of deals: the homeowner's insurance crisis. Even if a buyer navigates the inspection and secures their loan, they're hitting a final wall. They either can't get insurance for the property, or the cost is so astronomically high it makes the home unaffordable. This isn't just a problem for a few beachfront homes anymore. It's a full-blown crisis, especially in states like Florida, Texas, and California. But the ripple effects are spreading everywhere. Insurance companies have been hammered by huge losses from hurricanes, wildfires, and floods. As a result, many are pulling out of entire states, going bankrupt, or dramatically hiking premiums for the homes they are willing to cover. Here's how this torpedoes a real estate deal. A family finds a home in a city like Jacksonville or Orlando, which have some of the highest cancellation rates in the country. They get their mortgage approved based on an estimated insurance cost. But when they apply for a policy, they get a shock. They might get a quote for $10,000 or $15,000 a year, adding over $1,000 to their monthly housing cost. This new number destroys their debt-to-income ratio, and the lender pulls the mortgage commitment. The deal is dead. In other cases, the buyer can't get coverage at all. Insurers are now routinely refusing to cover homes with roofs older than 15 years or with certain types of plumbing. If private insurers refuse, a buyer might be forced into a state-run insurer of last resort. But these plans can be expensive and offer less coverage. This crisis is creating absurd situations where the viability of a purchase hinges on the insurance quote. It's the final boss battle that many buyers are unprepared for, and it's turning the dream of home ownership into a financial impossibility for more and more Americans. Look, if you want to stay ahead in this chaotic market, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We break down these trends every week with data-driven analysis so you can make smarter decisions, whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to figure out what's coming next. Beyond the big three, two powerful ripple effects are adding to the cancellations: a massive case of buyer's remorse and the domino-like failure of sale contingencies. First, let's talk about buyer's remorse. The mindset of home buyers has done a complete 180. For years, the main emotion was FOMO, fear of missing out. Buyers felt that they had to jump on any property or be priced out forever. Today, that's been replaced by FOBI, fear of buying in. Buyers are now terrified of buying at the peak only to see values drop. This fear gets worse when they go under contract but keep seeing new listings pop up. If another home in the same neighborhood hits the market for $15,000 less, or one in better shape for the same price, they start second-guessing their decision. With the desperation gone, they have the time and options to reconsider. They can use a small inspection issue as a legal excuse to back out and go after the better deal. This wasn't really an option when inventory was at rock bottom. The second ripple effect is the failure of home sale contingencies. The data shows that 20% of agents have seen deals collapse because the buyer couldn't sell their own home first. This creates a fragile chain of deals that can fall apart like dominoes. Here's the classic scenario. A move-up buyer wants to sell their starter home to buy a bigger one. They get their offer accepted, contingent on selling their current place. But their starter home, which would have sold in a weekend 2 years ago, now sits on the market for weeks. The seller of their dream home can't wait forever. The contingency expires and the deal is canceled. But it doesn't stop there. The seller may have been counting on that sale to buy their next home. Now their purchase is at risk. A single stalled sale can trigger a cascade of cancellations down the line. So with a record number of deals falling apart, what does this all mean? Is this a 2008 style crash? A much-needed correction, or something new entirely? Let's tackle the biggest fear first, the crash. Most economists agree this isn't a repeat of 2008. The conditions are just different. Back then, the crisis was fueled by reckless lending and a massive oversupply of homes. Today, lending standards are much tighter, and most homeowners have stable, fixed-rate mortgages. And while inventory is rising, we're nowhere near the glut we saw before the great financial crisis. It's more likely we are in a major market correction, a painful but necessary return to a more balanced market. market. For years, prices grew at an unsustainable pace and sellers had all the power. The wave of cancellations is the market's way of hitting the brakes and reintroducing discipline. Buyers can finally do their homework. Sellers are being forced to face the real condition of their homes, and prices are being tested against what someone with a 7% mortgage can actually afford. But the best description might be that we're entering a new fractured reality. The US housing market isn't a single thing anymore. It's breaking into dozens of hyper-local markets. The pain of these cancellations isn't felt evenly. Sunbelt cities like Atlanta, Jacksonville, and San Antonio are seeing cancellation rates over 20%. These are often markets with lots of new construction and are on the front lines of the insurance crisis. In contrast, many markets in the Northeast and Midwest have much lower cancellation rates because inventory is tighter and their insurance markets are more stable. What's happening in Austin is completely different from what's happening in Boston. The future of real estate is local. So after all that, what's the takeaway? This wave of cancellations is a fundamental reset of the rules of real estate. How you should play it depends entirely on which side of the deal you're on. For buyers, the message is simple. Your power is back. Use it. This is no time to be timid. Don't waive inspections. Negotiate hard for repairs or credits. Get multiple insurance quotes the second you're serious about a property. If the numbers don't work, especially with the cost of insurance and repairs, be ready to walk away. In this market, your greatest asset is patience. There will be another house. For sellers, it's time for a reality check. The party's over. The days of listing a home and having buyers line up with a blank check are gone. Your home is only worth what a buyer in late 2025, facing today's stress and insurance costs, is able to pay for it. Price it realistically from day one. Get a pre-inspection so you can fix the problems before they kill a deal. You need to make your home the most attractive, least risky option for a very cautious buyer. This is the end of an era of easy money and speculation. It's a return to a market where the fundamentals, the property's condition, the financing stability, and the real cost of ownership matter more than ever. The landscape is tricky, but for those of us who understand the new rules, it's a market that finally offers a real opportunity for the patient and the prepared. All right, friends, that's going to wrap it up for today. But listen, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or just trying to figure out what all of this means for your home's value, don't guess. Reach out. I've been helping Arizona homeowners navigate this market for over 16 years, and I can help you make a smart move too. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because the market's shifting faster than people realize, and you're going to want to stay ahead of it. I'm Charles Fratantoni with HomeSmart Realty. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.